Radio Free 102.3 KJLH. It's a special Saturday edition of The Front Page. I am Dominique DiPrima. We do this Monday through Friday from 4:30 to 6 a.m. Today, we are addressing how to coronavirus-proof your small business and personal finances. And we have some great guests to do so. Joining us, he's first elected to public office in 1991 on the city council. Now he is the supervisor for the 2nd District, Los Angeles County. Mark Ridley Thomas, good morning.
Morning to you, Dominique. I want to say from the top, thank you for doing this. It's extremely important.
I appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday. Also on the phone with us, the mayor of the city of Inglewood. He's got decades in public service and public safety and was first elected mayor of Inglewood in 2010. Good morning, Mayor James Butts Jr.
Good morning, Dominic. It's good to be here. How are you doing, Supervisor?
Yeah, what a great team. You guys, I know, work together on Metro Board and other projects. I wanted to just start off with both of you, if you would sort of give me an opening statement about what would you do if you were a small business and or individual, to protect your financial position right now.
Supervisor, Mayor, you want to proceed?
You guys are both one deferring to the other. I love it. Well, we're in your city.
I'll go ahead.
Mayor Butts, yeah.
First of all, to run a small business, first and foremost, you should have had 1 year's worth of operating capital in the bank before you started the business, and you would draw that down to become, a going concern. And then once you were a going concern, it was critical that you again put 1 year's of capital in the bank so that you can persevere through downturns in the economy, recessions, and what have you. That being said, we are where we are right now. So you need to avail yourself of every resource available to sustain yourself. Right now, there's a stimulus package that has been put forward in the order of $2 trillion. You should get on the website, find out immediately what access you have to what funds. You also should take advantage of measures that have been put in place by the city of Inglewood, by the county, and by the state that have forbidden evictions for at least 60 days during this time of crisis. And so right now is the time for you not to sit back and lament. It's time to get up, be aggressive, and find out what your alternatives are.
Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, what would you add to that?
Well, I would just say that we're going to be in this mode for the foreseeable future, and we just need to make that statement. We don't see this abating with any immediacy. Therefore, the county of Los Angeles is setting up now as a business assistance fund, and we'll say more about that a little later. But for the time being, let me give a number for the LA County Work and Business Disaster Center, and that's 1-833-283-4450. 1-833-283-4450. And we know long after the virus is gone, the economic damage will remain. And I just want to be clear, we will be making sure that small businesses and individuals are connected to the resources that they need to survive and to rebuild their business. That's our responsibility. We plan to do it. Small businesses are facing obviously serious financial distress and disruption during this time. So the resources, the capacity of the county of Los Angeles has to, those resources have to kick in. And I want them to know, all the small businesses, that they can rely on the county to be an effective resource. That number is real. Financially burdened businesses should immediately call the Departments of Consumer and Business Affairs and the Workforce Development and Aging and Community Services Department will be engaging freely on this, and so take full advantage of it. That's That's the main message that I want to give right now, Dominique, but there's more pursuant to further questions.
Yeah, I'll go to the phones with questions. Let's go to Ellie calling us from Los Angeles. Morning, Ellie.
Hi, my name is Elle.
Oh, okay.
And hi, Dominic. Thank you for your program. I'm calling today because I am a working homeless
Tough to hear, Dominic.
woman.
Okay, I'll let you know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Okay.
I go to work every day. However, I have been sleeping in my car for months. I do go from different places, but now my job has required us to work remotely. And with that, so with that, I did go and secure a room. I went in different places. I was in Long Beach, also in Los Angeles. And those funds run out quickly. I have enough for 2 days. And next week, starting Monday, they're expecting me to be back on remotely again.
Okay, so let's get some answers, or whatever answers are available. Elle is working. She's been asked to work from home, but she's living in her car, and the resources that she's been able to get are running out.
So the number that I gave is designed to provide one-on-one counseling and support for workers and businesses. So I would strongly encourage Elle to call that number and call it now. In addition, Dominique, there's 211 that's set up, and we've supplied more trained online workers for 211 for the general issues related to COVID-19, particularly if there's an emergency. And homeless referrals can be made in the context of calling 211. But the business and worker disaster help is the number that I gave. So there's a number of places to go. We're all in, and we want to make sure that people realize that we care about their circumstances and we can help them through this.
Now,
go ahead, Mayor James Butts. Yes.
If you're in Inglewood and you have an issue related to homelessness, you can email C. Eller, C as in Charles, ELLER, at cityofinglewood.org. She's our homeless liaison person, and she will connect you with services, temporary vouchers for hotel rooms, and other services that you may be in need of if you're within the city of Inglewood.
Give that email one more time, Mayor Butts.
C as in Charles, Eller, ELLER, at cityofinglewood.org.
And speaking of cityofinglewood.org, I know that, we talked about a week ago on the show, and you took some of the things that the listeners were saying and took some of them to the council meeting. What happened?
Well, we've done a variety of things. We have passed an emergency ordinance, which places a moratorium on evictions of both residential renters and commercial renters. We have given a $1 million subsidy to all the businesses and all the residents of Inglewood by paying next month's trash collection fees for them. We have avoided 1,400 parking citations for street sweeping because our residents confused the message given out by the city of Los Angeles that they would not be enforcing street sweeping. And we cannot do that because we pick up trash the same day as street sweeping. So we had a big influx, 284% increase in street sweeping violations. And so we voided those tickets. That was about $82,000 of benefit to the residents. So we have tried to provide direct subsidies to our residents. And we also are waiving any false alarm fees for the duration of this emergency. We're doing everything we can to get financial relief to the businesses and residents of the city. And that's $1 million in counting right now.
And all of that stuff they can find at the information on the City of Inglewood website, right?
www.cityofinglewood.org.
We should know that by now.
Yes, exactly.
Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, talk about some of the things, that specific things that we might find out about by calling the 833-283-4450, some of the kinds of things that the county is doing to help individuals and small businesses.
Well, it's really one-on-one counseling, and the county's capacity is pretty extensive. But let me just simply say that individuals who are faced with crisis in terms of working, like the caller who just came in, we have the ability to make a series of referrals through the range of departments that are at our disposal. The Workforce Development Department in particular, if there are issues with persons who are seniors, the aging component of that department for senior services is at the ready. The work that's being done by the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs is on point to advocate against price gouging. And so there's a number of ways in which we can engage. And one of the things that I've also been trying to do is to say, follow the instructions of the Department of Public Health in terms of practicing physical distancing, doing what needs to be done in terms of washing of one's hands, etc. But there are essential business. You invited us to talk about business today, so there's essential business. One of the areas that I have tried to say grab and go is in terms of small business and restaurant operations that really do need to have the support of the communities of which they are a part. And some are the most recognizable small businesses, and they will be the most financially impacted. And I'm trying to say that if you order, keep the 6 feet zone that you need to establish, go in, purchase the food, and head back home. That's perfectly legitimate, perfectly appropriate, and you are helping keep that business alive and helping to keep people employed. It's very, very useful, and so a small business initiative is very practical, and it will make a difference in the life of the community. It will make a difference in the life of that business, and it will make a difference in the life of the individuals who rely on that income. Very, very important.
Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas and Inglewood Mayor James Butts Jr. We're adding one more voice to this conversation. Joseph Nichita. He is the Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs Director. Welcome, Mr. Nichita. Welcome so much. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
So, LA Business and Worker Disaster Help Center, we talked about the phone number. There's also a website. And there are some resources specifically available for small businesses regarding disaster loans. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. And let me just start by thanking Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas for his support to help us get this up and running and get it launched. We officially launched on Wednesday. Between Thursday and Friday, we saw a huge uptick in calls. Thursday we had about 80 calls. Friday we had over 300. So the word is getting out there. Here's what we can do at the Help Center. If a business calls and they have a question about available disaster funding, what's coming through the new federal stimulus package, the CARES Act, we have counselors who are trained up on all of that stuff. They can ask specific questions about the business, try to gauge the business need, and then not only connect the business owner with an available resource, but actually help them fill out the applications and make sure they have the paperwork in order. So it is a very hands-on service. We have help from all over the county. I want to acknowledge my fellow county departments. We have reference librarians who are trained up. We have folks from our human resources department, from our workforce department. You had the caller earlier ask about resources for her if she is unable to work remotely because of her financial circumstances or housing. We are creating linkages through the center as well. So if somebody calls and presents with a situation like that, we are able to sort of take down the information, maybe connect with some benefits through the Department of Public Social Services, et cetera. It really is the single entry point, the one-stop shop. It's growing, it's developing. We don't know all the issues that we'll present, but as they present, we'll start to make those linkages.
All right, we're going to try to power through some of these phone calls. We've got Sadiq calling from Hawthorne. Good morning, Sadiq.
Page family. I have two questions. First question is, with this stimulus package that the government just passed, is there a site or is there a way that we could go online and see what big businesses are going to be profiting from this?
There's quite a few articles about that. The New York Times has a really good one out now. TheNation.com has a good one, too.
Okay. And the second question is, with essential businesses and first responders, is there a bill or some type of legislation in play to where they could get hazardous pay?
Hazardous pay for first responders. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and essential businesses that
got it.
stay open.
Dominique is someone who spent 37 years in law.
Dominique, I can speak to that.
Okay, yeah. Let's have Mayor Butts first, and then Supervisor Ridley Thomas. Mayor Butts was just saying, you spent years as a first responder, as a cop, right? So your thoughts on that?
Exactly, and you are paid, hazard paid by the level of wages that you're paid versus the education required to be a police officer or firefighter, because by the nature of your duties, they're hazardous. And so to have the expectation that you would receive hazard pay on top of that.
Well, I think he's talking about grocery workers and Postmates workers who become first responders in this situation.
I don't know of any legislation for that, no.
Not yet. Supervisor Ridley Thomas, your thoughts?
Well, I think a couple of things on that score. The United Food and Commercial Workers have come forth and said, listen, we want to do our jobs, we want to do those jobs well, but we have to have the appropriate commitment on the part of the grocers in order to do it. Otherwise, we're going to put ourselves, our family, and shoppers at risk. And so there's a lot currently going on. I suspect you will see this coming week at the meeting of the Board of Supervisors, who's being launched to address the very issue of frontline workers, call them grocery workers and the like, being allocated. So stay tuned. Tuesday 9:30, that issue will be taken up. It's also the case with respect to home care workers. There's a lot of activity moving as we speak in terms of making sure the individuals who are taking care of the frail elderly are properly equipped to do what they need to do to take care of our loved ones. The data initially suggested that those persons 65 and above are the most fragile and medically compromised, potentially because of underlying health conditions. We did learn not too far after that the population of young people 20 to 44 had a significant spike in terms of being attacked by the coronavirus. And so the message here is that everyone needs to be careful, practicing the social and physical distancing, washing hands with regularity, and trying to do the least amount in terms of exposure, physically and otherwise. I would finally say that those who are frontline workers dealing with the homeless crisis outreach workers and the network of individuals that do that work. We've already come forward and to make sure that they had more of what they needed, not the least of which would be compensation scenarios, because we need them working. The homeless population is the most vulnerable population in many respects, and they can put the rest of us at risk because of their medical conditions, and in homeless encampments and the like. It's just logical to conclude that there are going to be more problems there. So we are essentially accelerating the rate at which those individuals are going to be lifted out of the circumstances of the encampments, moved to shelters where they can be monitored with the proper supports and the social distancing that we're talking about. These are the kinds of things that we have to do in a tailor-made way for us, a range of frontline workers, whether they are homeless outreach workers, home care workers, or grocery store workers. A lot's going on in that area, and we have an obligation to address it as government.
Let's go to Jay Adams calling us from Los Angeles. Good morning, Jay Adams. You're on.
Good morning, Dominique, front page. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Go ahead, please. You're welcome.
I'm the senior vice president of marketing for the radioshow.com, and right now we're working with a nonprofit making changes for good causes. I just want to thank Mr. Thomas and Mr. Butts being online. My question was, we're a specialty in marketing and media, and so Dominique does a good job. KJLH does a good job. Is there anywhere else besides those two locations where we can keep current information so we can help by doing our part? Because, yes, social distancing, but there's a lot we can do online.
Got it, Jay Adams. We're tight on time here. So basically he's talking about, how can nonprofits stay abreast of what they need to do to either help out or receive help. Mayor James Butts, your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to this situation, there really is not a predefined role. This is the approach to this particular epidemic is unprecedented in our history. It wasn't like this for SARS, for Ebola. I have some questions as to how this is being played out and perceived epidemiology-wise. And so, no, I don't know of any role, because right now everyone's being encouraged, ordered to shelter in place. And so to say that there's a role for nonprofits at this juncture of this approach, I don't see that. However, I think we're going to have to rethink in a minute just how we're perceiving this, and is there selection bias in how we're reporting this crisis and responding to it.
Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, your thoughts?
Pretty difficult for me to answer the question.
The role of nonprofits and where they can, stay abreast of how they can help or how they can get help.
Well, the Business Assistance Disaster Center is a place that can help nonprofits, just like they're going to be helping small businesses. And when we come forward this coming week with announcing a new business assistance fund, nonprofits will be eligible for that. The additional point that I want to make is that they make life better for a lot of people. And so this community-based approach that we are thinking about will make a huge difference. And the final point is, we call 211. They have a range of nonprofits at their disposal that can be helpful and engaging. And so we're helping the nonprofits, and we're helping the nonprofits help the community because we care about people in our community and know that we must step up.
And I know that Community Build is doing, I think, something virtual, through Zoom and whatnot, where they're connecting different nonprofits. So you might want to reach out to Community Build in South LA and see if you can be part of their consortium of nonprofits.
They put together a consortium that's building and moving forward. Robert Sosato and the entire group, shout out to them, and several other organizations that are coming together. The stronger play we make as we become unified in the face of this, but the resources are necessary, and those resources will come from federal, state, and local government, and we need to be timely in moving that forward.
Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas and Mayor James Butts, thank you guys both so much for being with me today. Can you just give us a closing thought? Supervisor Ridley Thomas, go ahead. Yes.
Because of the unprecedented nature of this crisis, I think people need to know, and you've made this point several times, Dominique, with other callers, that they are not alone. And in times like this, it's when we need to do our best work as the public sector to make our community whole, because this is how we get through this together, the public and private sector working together. This is a display of it. KJLH is always on the case, advocating on the part of the community. It's not a government entity, it's a private sector entity, and yet the mayor, Ms. Nikita, and I represent the public sector. We're working together, and that's how we do what we do on behalf of our community. I'm proud to be with you this morning.
All right, and Mayor James Butts.
First and foremost, the structures of government that are put in place to preserve order, to support residents and businesses in times of crisis and peril, have to continue their coordinated approach to provide relief. However, as a nation, and as a state, as a county, and individual cities, we have to keep things in perspective. We can't succumb to the total hysteria that has been put forward about the coronavirus. I think that in time to come, the issue of selection bias as to how we are reporting the populations that are forming our opinion level of peril that we're in will be looked at. And I would caution everyone to realize that the sun shines today and the sun will shine tomorrow, and that we need to do as much as we can to preserve the status of our society, of our economy, and of our connections as people. And we do not need to succumb to hysteria. And I believe putting all this together with the support resources that have been put in place, we will come to that better tomorrow. And I want to thank you, Dominique, for your proactiveness in keeping these forums open so the public can receive perspective, because right now we lack perspective in the totality of this crisis. So I want to thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you both so very much, and thank you always for partnering. You are both such great partners with KJLH. Family, we will be back with more. Congresswoman Karen Bass will be on the air with us, as well as City Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson, and more from Joseph Nishida as well. That's a Front Page Radio Free 102.3 KJ.